Welcome to the Eden of Rainbows, where love meets beliefs. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
The moment Victoria stepped out, the air in the room seemed to exhale. Elizabeth turned to Rose, a worried frown creasing her forehead. "Well, that was awkward," Elizabeth whispered, pulling Rose closer. Rose leaned into her, her warmth a comfort against Elizabeth's sudden chill. "Maybe she's just shy, Beth. New school, new everything. It's a lot." "I hope so," Elizabeth sighed, but a familiar knot tightened in her stomach. She knew the signs of judgment, of disapproval, and Victoria's silent departure felt a lot like it. "Still, it feels like we just lost our little bubble of freedom." Rose's hand found Elizabeth's, her fingers lacing together. "We can still be ourselves, Beth. Just a bit more careful, maybe. Until we know what she's like." Her eyes, usually so bright, held a hint of sadness. They had both savored the uninhibited joy of the past term, and the thought of returning to secrecy was a bitter pill. They spent the next hour trying to lighten the mood, talking about their holidays, but the unspoken presence of their new roommate hung in the air. Elizabeth kept glancing at Victoria's side of the room, still neat and untouched, waiting for her return. She felt a strange mix of annoyance and curiosity. Who was this girl who had so abruptly changed the atmosphere of their sanctuary? Finally, Elizabeth decided to send Rose back to her own room. "Go get settled in, baby," she said, giving Rose a tender kiss on the forehead. "We'll make up for this lost time later, I promise. Once the coast is clear." Rose nodded, understanding the unspoken message. She lingered for a moment, her eyes soft as she looked at Elizabeth. "I missed you," she murmured, before pressing a sweet, lingering kiss to Elizabeth's lips. It was a promise, a quiet reassurance that their connection was strong enough to weather any small storm. After Rose left, Elizabeth straightened her own belongings, trying to busy herself, but her mind kept drifting. She thought about the plans she and Rose had made, the quiet, intimate moments they'd looked forward to. Now everything felt uncertain. Hours passed. Dinner came and went, eaten in the noisy school dining hall where Elizabeth caught no glimpse of Victoria. The sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Still no Victoria. Elizabeth started to feel a prickle of impatience. She really could have spent that time with Rose. It was much later, almost dark, when the door finally opened again. Victoria stepped in, carrying another small bag. She looked tired. Her eyes met Elizabeth's for a fleeting second, devoid of any expression Elizabeth could read. "Hi," Elizabeth offered, trying for a friendly tone. "I'm Elizabeth, by the way. I'm a senior." Victoria simply nodded, placing her bag down next to the first one. "Victoria. Senior too." Her voice was low, almost a monotone. She didn't offer a smile, or any further conversation. Instead, she just turned away and began to unpack a few more things, moving with a quiet efficiency that made Elizabeth feel like an intruder in her own room. Elizabeth watched her, a strange mix of frustration and a blossoming curiosity swirling inside her. Victoria was different from anyone she'd met. Her bluntness, her almost complete lack of warmth, was jarring. As Victoria moved, Elizabeth found her gaze drawn to the subtle sway of her hips, the way her simple clothes clung to her frame. She was undeniably attractive, in a raw, understated way. The next morning was even more telling. Elizabeth woke to the sound of rustling. Victoria was already up, moving about her side of the room, getting ready for classes. Elizabeth watched her from her bed, pretending to still be half asleep. Victoria slipped out of her nightclothes, revealing a lean, toned body. The morning light caught on her skin, making it glow softly. Elizabeth's breath hitched in her throat as Victoria turned to reach for her bra, giving Elizabeth a brief, full view of her firm, round breasts. They were smaller than roses, but perfectly shaped. A wave of unexpected warmth spread through Elizabeth. She quickly tried to shake it off. "What are you thinking, Elizabeth?" She chided herself. "She's a stranger, and she clearly doesn't approve of you." Victoria quickly pulled on her bra and then a simple shirt and skirt. She turned, and her eyes, sharp and direct, met Elizabeth's. There was no judgment in them, only a cool frankness. "Look," Victoria said, her voice clear, cutting through the morning quiet. "My name's Victoria. You can call me Vic or Tori or whatever. But don't call me a friend, and don't stare at my body like that." She paused, her gaze steady. "I don't care who you're with, or what you do, as long as it doesn't involve me. I'm straight, so don't even think about it. And don't touch my stuff." Elizabeth felt a flush creep up her neck, her cheeks burning. She'd been caught red-handed, and her clumsy attempt at an apology died on her lips. She had never met anyone so direct, so utterly unapologetic about their boundaries. It was startling, almost admirable in its honesty, but it also stung. "Understood," Elizabeth managed to say, her voice a little tight. She finally sat up, swinging her legs off the bed. "I appreciate you being direct." Victoria merely nodded, then finished gathering her books. "Good," she said simply, and without another word, she walked out the door, leaving Elizabeth alone in the quiet room. Elizabeth stared at the closed door. That was a conversation. She had to admit, it was a relief to have the air cleared, even if it was done with such a sharp edge. Victoria made it clear she didn't care about Elizabeth's choices, which, in its own way, was a kind of freedom. But her bluntness, her almost aggressive independence, also created a strange distance. Elizabeth found herself wondering, despite Victoria's clear words, what hidden currents ran beneath that cool exterior.